Good morning students. Welcome to the last session of statistics. In the previous sessions, we discussed data and its types, recording and organization of data, preparation of frequency distribution table, representation, and all the three types of measures of central tendency. They are mean, median, and mode. In today's session, let us focus on some more concepts. Look at this slide. In today's class, we focus on construction of grouped frequency distribution, graphical representation of grouped data, preparation of less than and greater than cumulative frequency. Before we start construction of grouped frequency distribution, I would like to ask you all a question. Whenever you have exams, would you like to do combined studies or you want to sit alone and prepare for the examination? Obviously, you prefer combined studies, isn't it? So, either you go to your friend's house or you ask your friend to come your house. So, here these two students are sitting together and preparing for exams. So, this is called a pair or doublet. And whenever you do experiments in the laboratory, your teacher divides you students into groups, small groups for convenience, isn't it? So, here these three students are doing an experiment in the laboratory, and this group of three students is called a triplet. And these four students are small guys are sitting and doing some investigation on this plant, it seems. So, here the group of four students is called a quartet, and especially the students of social welfare know more about this quartet and the leaders of the quartet, isn't it? So, here depending on the varieties of observations that we have in the data or the varieties of students we have, for our convenience, we divide that large group of students or the observations into small groups. So, here before we see actually how do we construct a grouped frequency distribution table, let me share you all a small incident which is on the construction of my dream house. It is not only me, everyone of us have the dream of constructing a new house, isn't it? But as soon as we feel of constructing a house, do we go directly to our land and start construction of the house? We don't, isn't it? So, here what do we do before the construction of house? We visit the houses of our friends and our relatives and many other people to analyze. We go to their house and see, go around and see how the bedroom is and how many bedrooms are there, how the kitchen, hall, everything, even interior decoration, the color of the house, everything we try to analyze. And then we come to a conclusion. Oh, like this, we need to plan to construct the house. This much of land that I have, in that I can construct 2 bedrooms or a small kitchen and a very big hall. And in everything we plan, and then we go to the engineer and explain him our plan, and he will draw a blueprint. Look at this. This is the blueprint of the house. And then after preparation of the blueprint, what do? We get all the raw material like cement, concrete, bricks, sand, everything. And after that, the construction starts, and finally the dream of new house comes true, isn't it? The house is looking very beautiful. So, here after the construction of house, are we all able to see whatever raw material we have seen previously? Yes, are we able to see? No. So, here only the walls, colorful walls, windows, doors, all are seen. This raw data is not seen. So, in the same way, before the construction of grouped data, we try to analyze what are the keywords related and what are the concepts related to the grouped data. So, for that, we will see a grouped data which is already constructed. Look at the board, children. I am writing this grouped data on the board. Here I have number of patients who admitted in the hospital in a particular year. So, ages of patients, first column, and second one is number of patients. So, here the different age groups are 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, 60 to 70. We have seen in the beginning also small groups were divided. Now, these are the small groups, and here number of patients, which is nothing but the frequency, 8, 15, 25, 27, 18 and 7. So, here this is a grouped data. As we visited our friend's house to analyze everything, here we are just looking at the grouped data which is already prepared. So, when you look at this grouped data, you find here small groups such as 10 to 20, 20 to 30 and so on. So, these small groups are called classes. Okay, what are they called? Classes. And here in the class 10 to 20, first class 10 to 20, if you see the left side value 10, this value 10 is called lower limit. What is it called? Lower limit. And this right side value 20 is called upper limit. So, in a class we have two values, right? Starting and the ending value. That starting value or the beginning value is called lower limit of the class, and the ending value is called upper limit of the class. And here this type of data can also be written in another way. Let me show you how do we write the data in another way. Instead of taking 10 to 20, here I can take 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 49, 50 to 59 and 60 to 69. Do you find any difference between this and this type of classes? Yes, there is a small difference. If you observe this first one, here we have upper limit of the first class and the lower limit of the immediate next class are equal. Upper limit and lower limits are equal, they are same. Similarly, in all other classes. So, this type of classes are called exclusive classes. What are they called? Exclusive classes. And here when you look at this type of grouping, here upper limit of first class is 19 and lower limit of second class is 20. They are not equal. So, this kind of classes are called inclusive classes. So, classes are of two types. One is exclusive, the other one is inclusive. In the exclusive classes, upper and lower limits of the consecutive classes are equal here. As they are equal, we can also say that the classes are overlapping or the classes are continuous. So, we call exclusive classes or overlapping classes or the continuous classes. And when you come to inclusive, they are non-overlapping. There is a difference. They are not overlapping and they are called discrete classes also. So, these are the two types of classes we have. And here in this type, here anyways 20 and 20 are equal, and here 19 and 20 there is a difference of 1. Now, if any observation like 19.5, 19.6 is there, we have to include it in certain class. But if this kind of grouping is there, we can't include that. So, for that we need to find the limits, boundaries of the classes. What do we need to find? Boundaries. So, what are these boundaries? How do we get the boundaries of the classes? Just by adding the upper limit of the first class and lower limit of the second class and dividing it by 2, which is nothing but the average. We have seen in the second session how do we calculate the mean of an observation data given, right? So, we are taking the average of the data here. So, 19 plus 20 is 39, 39 by 2 is equal to 19.5. So, this is how we can find out the boundary of a particular class, and this 19.5 is going to be the upper boundary of the first class and the lower boundary of the second class. In the similar way, next classes also we can find out the upper boundaries as well as lower boundaries. Then what about this 10 and 69 last two values? So here what do we do? For 10, the preceding value we consider as 9. Okay, for convention, 10 preceding one is 9 plus 10 by 2, 19 by 2. So what is this? 19 by 2 is equal to 9.5. So lower boundary of this particular class becomes 9.5. Similarly, for 69 we consider 7 as the next value, 70 as the next value, and we add them, 69 plus 70 by 2, and we get 69.5. So this is how we can find the boundaries. So after finding the boundaries, you can rewrite these classes. How do we write? Look at the board. So here 9.5 to 19.5, 19.5 to 29.5, 29.5 to 39.5, and so on. So this is how we can convert the inclusive classes again into exclusive or overlapping classes. And these boundaries are also known as the true class limits of the classes. And here, as we discussed in the example, of the construction of house, I said after the construction of the building, we couldn't see all the raw material, isn't it? Bricks, cement, and nothing was seen. Here also, we can't see the actual observations. 10 to 20 means the observations starting with 20 and less than 20 are here. And here, the name itself, exclusive, means what? Here we have to exclude this upper limit in this particular class and include in the next class. So here, when we prepare the table, you will get better understanding about exclusive and inclusive. So what is this? Exclusive means we start with 10 and we consider up to 19. This 20 here and here, both the classes we have 20. So here this 20 is excluded in the first class and added in the next class. And here for all the classes, the upper limit are excluded in that particular class and added in the next class. Okay, that's why these classes are exclusive. Whereas in the inclusive classes, what do we do? Upper limit is here, it is included in this particular class. We are not excluding it. We are taking 10 to 19 and next value 20 goes to the next class. Okay, so this is how we define exclusive and inclusive classes. And if you look at this slide, what do we have here? Ages in years and number of patients. So here we can interpret also. Raw data is collected and it is converted into grouped data, and this grouped data makes our work very easy. By looking at this grouped frequency distribution table, we can easily interpret. We can say that 27 patients of age 40 to 49 are admitted in the hospital. So any information that we want, we can look at the table and in fraction of seconds we can answer. Now shall we see how to construct the grouped frequency distribution table? We have seen the words required, all the words, and here one more word is, as I told you, the observations are not seen, but we consider the middlemost value of these two represents each and every observation of the data. And how do we calculate the middlemost value of these two limits? 10 lower limit plus upper limit by 2. 10 plus 20, 30 by 2 is equal to 15. So here we consider that the values lying between 10 to 20 are approximately 15. This 15 is considered as the observation of the data, and we represent it with X, and it is also called class mark. What do we call it as? Class mark or mid value of the class. Okay. Now let us see how do we construct this table. We have come to know the terminology or the keywords that are used for this task of construction of grouped frequency distribution. Now we will take a data. I collected some data for this task. I'll write it on the board. So I have weights of 30 mangoes. Okay, I'll write all the weights of 30 mangoes in grams. Okay, 35, 45, 55, 30, 98, 95, 40, 70, 96, 60, 80, 85, 60, 52, 95, 98, 35, 47, 45, 97, 90, 30, 75, 95, 85, 80, 35, 45, 40 and 50. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5, 6 are total 30 observations I have written on the board. Now, this is raw data, which is also called ungrouped data. We have seen preparation of frequency distribution table even in the first session, but there we had very few observations. We had very few varieties of observations. I conducted a SMS poll on the lockdown. Do you all remember SMS poll on the lockdown? I have given you only 3 options, right? A, B, C options I gave, and you have sent the SMSs, and I prepared frequency distribution table. The table which was prepared in that class, that is called, we prepared like this, options A, B, C, and this is some 13 and 5 and 2 we got like this. So this is frequency distribution table but not grouped. So that is why it is called ungrouped frequency distribution table. And here varieties of observations are very few, less number of varieties we have. So here more number of varieties of observations, right? So now we prepare grouped frequency distribution table for this. But how many classes do we have to take? And what is the size of the class that we have to take? All these questions comes into our mind. And what actually the size of the class? Just now we have seen a data 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40 and so on. So here the size of the class, we have seen the groups now of different sizes, 2 students, 3 students, 4, they were named, right? So here also the size of the class is nothing but the difference between the 2 consecutive lower limits, that is lower limit of the first class is 10 and the immediate next class is 20. If you find the difference 20 minus 10, that is equal to size of the class, 20 minus 10. It is represented by C or H also sometimes. And not only the difference of 2 consecutive lower limits, we can take the difference of 2 consecutive upper limits also, 20, 30, 30 minus 20 is also 10. Or the difference of the boundaries, difference of the boundaries of the particular class, difference of the boundaries of the particular class. So you can consider any particular class here, 30, 40, right? In this class, lower boundary is 30, upper boundary is 40. The difference is 40 minus 30 is equal to 10. So if we can find the size of the class in 3 different ways. And for this is exclusive type. For inclusive type, we have seen 10 to 19, 19 to 20 to 29 and so on. So here difference between the 2 consecutive limits is 10. Difference between 2 consecutive upper limits is also 10. But when you subtract 19 and 10, 19 minus 10 is equal to 9. Now can we say that the size of the class is 9? Do you all think that the size of the class is 9? No. Why? I said in the definition, difference between the upper boundary and the lower boundary of a particular class. If you consider a particular class, it is the difference between upper boundary and the lower boundary. Are these the boundaries? 19 and 20, 19, 10, 20, 29. They are not the boundaries, they are the limits. I have shown you just now how to find the boundaries. So if you write the boundaries for this, 9.5, 19.5, right, 19.5, 29.5. Now we have boundaries. If you subtract 9.5 from 19.5, we get 10, isn't it? So, but the students, what they do, what you all do, generally, you won't remember that the difference between the boundaries, that point you won't remember, and immediately whenever you are asked to write the size of the classes of this kind, you subtract 10 from 19 and write 9. Now, I hope you are all clear and you won't commit this mistake in future. Okay? Now, Okay, we have this data. What shall we do? Shall we prepare inclusive or exclusive? Which one? Or both? Or both we prepare. Okay, first exclusive we will say. Yeah. And to prepare the exclusive classes here, as I told you, how many classes do we have to make here? And what is the size of the class that we have to take? That we have to decide now. Yes. How can we find the size of the class or number of classes? If you remember, children, I actually have to define one more word to decide number of classes or size of the class. Do you have a habit of watching movies in which most frequently used dialogue? Do you know my range? The villains or the heroes, most frequently villains say, do you know my range? Who am I? They say, isn't it? So what does it mean? The most popularly used word, range, in fraction movies. So the range is the villain or the hero is trying to tell the opposite person that I am so famous, known from that place to this place. What are you talking? Like that they will be saying. So here also our statistics has range, which is nothing but the difference between the highest and the least value. How much the data has spread, that we have to find out. So here range is equal to what I said. Range is the difference of highest value minus the difference of highest and the least values. That is highest value minus least value. Whenever we say difference, we subtract the least from the highest, or maximum value minus minimum value. Now we have to identify the smallest of all these observations. From that time, you are all observing this data now. Can you tell me the smallest of all the observations that I have written on the board? Yes, it is, I think, 30. 30 is the smallest, and greatest is 98. They are side by side, 30 and 98. So 98 minus 30. Now this, if you subtract, how much do we get? 68. So this is the range of this data, 68. Now based on this 68, we have to decide number of classes. Generally, we prefer 5 to 8 classes, not more than that. 5 to 8 classes we prefer. So as range is 68, if we take 10, 68 by 10 is equal to some 6.8 we get, so that we get 7 classes, I think. So let us consider C value, that is size of the class is equal to 10. Then number of classes, we have a formula, range by class interval. So range is 68, class interval is 10, which is equal to 6.8, approximately 7, round figure approximation 6.8 is equal to 7. So here we are going to get 7 classes, and we are supposed to make how many, how much size? 10 as the size of the class. So we decided to take 10 as size of the class, and number of classes that we are going to get are 7. Now let us start the grouped frequency distribution. Here we have 30 as smallest, and this data, as I told you, this is weights of the mangoes. So the first heading, it should be weight in grams, weight in grams. And the second heading, as usual, if you remember, tally marks we used in the first class also to prepare ungrouped frequency distribution table. So here also we use tally marks, and finally frequency. We count the tally marks and write the frequency of the data. Now let us take inclusive classes. As smallest is 30 and size is 10, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, 60 to 70, 70 to 80, 80 to 90, and 90 to 100. So the least is here and the highest lies between 90 and 100. So how many classes do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. As we discussed earlier, we have 7 classes. Now let us draw the tally marks. 35. So it belongs to which class? 30 to 40. The value 35 lies between 30 and 40. So tally mark. Then 45. 45 belongs to 40 to 50 class, right? Then 55 belongs to 50 to 60. again 30 first class, 98 90 to 100 class, then 95 also 90 to 100 class, 40, yeah. So as I told you in the beginning, these are exclusive classes, and here the we have the value 40, and this value you cannot add here, you have to add in the next class. Here 40 is excluded and added in the next class, so you have to take 40 here, and 70 same thing, here you have to take 70 to 80 class, and 96, 60 same problem, here also 60 is not taken here, we have to take here in the next class 60, and 80, here we have to take 80, 85, 80 to 90, and 60 again here, 52 here, 95 here. So if you keep on adding tally marks, finally you will get how many, let us see, okay, 98. So 4 over, no, fifth one we need to make a bunch for easy counting, 35, 47, 45, 97, then 90, again 90, where do we need to add? Here in this next class we have to add 30 first class, 75 here, 95 this class, okay, it 3, then 85, 80, 35 first class, 35, right, and 45, where it comes, 45 here, and 40 comes here, and 50, finally 50 comes here. Now count the frequencies. So here we have 5, 6, 3, 3, 1, 4 and 8. So this is how we can prepare the frequency distribution table. And these classes that we have taken are, what kind of classes we have taken? Exclusive classes. We excluded the upper limit in this particular class, added in the next class. So we can also take inclusive classes. Only thing is, instead of 40, here we write 39, 49, 60. In the place of 60 we write 59. But do you think will there be any change in the frequencies? There won't be any change. Anyways, whether we write 40 or 39, here we are taking up to 39 values only. We are not taking 40, no. That's why that frequency remains the same. Only the way that we write the classes changes. It won't affect the frequencies. So this is how we prepare frequency distribution table. I hope you are all clear with the preparation of frequency distribution table. Now let us represent this frequency distribution in the form of graphs. Are you all ready to draw the graphs, children? Right. So we have 3 types of graphs: histogram, frequency polygon and frequency curve. We represent the given grouped data in histogram, frequency polygon and frequency curve, one at a time we will see. And before we draw the graph, I would like to tell you something about scale factor, which is very, very important in drawing graphs or anything, or many other things in our day-to-day life, in other subjects also. What is the scale factor? It is the scale to which we are, the length of the scale which we are taking, the ratio of the length of the scale which we are taking to the corresponding length of the actual object. See, here in the slide you can see the map of India, and here also this India, you know, some miles and of land, that shape, very huge figure, very big figure we get. It is not possible to represent it on the paper. That's why we take a scale, particular scale. So here in this map also, one map unit is equal to some 100 million ground units is taken and the graph is drawn. And not only in drawing graphs, here for making the mini model of Eiffel Tower or Charminar, Taj Mahal, all this we can use the scale, appropriate scale we take and make the mini model for estimation. And not only in mini models, in science fairs when you participate, you make models. No, you need to prepare the model of a heart or prepare the model of your experiment. There also that huge apparatus cannot be taken to the science fair, science exhibition, isn't it? That's why what do? We prepare the model taking a appropriate scale. And even in photographs, different sizes of photographs we have, like postcard size, passport size, stamp size, different types of photographs we have, no? So that photographs are also developed using scale factor. And we prepare some delicious recipe at home, and this recipe is also, in the preparation of this recipe also, we use the scale factor. For in what way? 100 grams of palak paneer, suppose we have to make. We take for everything we have a measure, like 10 grams of paneer, or some count of palak is taken. Every ingredient we have certain measurement. The same palak paneer, if you have to make for many people in more quantity, then you use this scale and prepare more amount of palak paneer. And in the beginning of the class, we have seen blueprint. Do you all remember? Engineer draws blueprint for the construction of house. So here also, carpenters, engineers, everybody use the scale factor to represent that doors, windows, that big buildings, isn't it? That big building, big room, we cannot draw on a paper. We need to take appropriate scale and draw. Not only in all this, in our mathematics also, we use the scale factor. So here, using scale factor, if we draw a graph that resembles the actual data given in the table. So here I have histogram. What is this histogram? It is almost like bar graph. In the first session we discussed bar graph, no? Here if you look at this graph, what do we have? Rectangles of same width and different heights we have. But there is no gap between the rectangles. They are drawn side by side. But in bar graphs, when we have drawn in the first session, there we had gap between the rectangles. And on the x-axis, we have taken the items or the observations, and on y-axis, we have taken the frequencies. So here also, we have what kind of data here? Weights of 38 people in a village. Weights of 38 people in a village. So the weights are ranging from 0 to 50 like this, 0 to 10, 10 to 20 and so on, and the frequencies are given. To draw this graph, we take weights. Weights are nothing but the class intervals. Class intervals on x-axis we take, and frequencies on y-axis. And here a suitable scale is taken on the x-axis, like x-axis 1 centimeter is equal to 10 units and y-axis 1 centimeter is equal to 2 units, right? So here 0 to 10 class we have frequency 4. So on the x-axis here, from 0 to 4 and 10 to 4, 2 points we have to mark and join them. It gives us the width and complete the rectangle, which gives us the length also. Similarly, other values 10 to 20 is 8, 20 to 30 is 3 here. See, on y-axis if you see, the width is exactly opposite to 3. And 30 to 40, 17, 40 to 50, 6. So this is how we can draw the histogram. What is the purpose of drawing this histogram? We have already this grouped data, no? What is the purpose of drawing this? We all know that picture speaks better than words, isn't it? That's why looking at this graph at a glance, we can easily say that 17 people's weight is 30 to 40 kgs. 17 people are there. So this picture helps us in interpretation of the data very easily. Are you all clear, children? Understood? Right. Next, after this graph, we move on to the next one, frequency polygon by histogram. So this frequency polygon, to draw this frequency polygon, you have learnt what are polygons and all in the geometry class. A simple closed figure consisting of a certain number of sides. If 3 sides are there, it is triangle. If 4 sides are there, it is quadrilateral, and so on. Many types of polygons you have seen in the geometry class. So here we will learn how to draw a polygon for the given frequency distribution. So it's a kind of graphical representation of the data. We have seen histogram, in the same way frequency polygon. So here frequency polygon can be drawn using this histogram. So if you mark the midpointer of this upper width and join them using scale, you will get a frequency polygon. To complete it, you can extend to the before class and the next class. So independently, how can we draw frequency polygon without using histogram? Look at this. So here frequency polygon is drawn without histogram. So here we need to calculate the mid values, as we discussed in the in the beginning of the class. Mid values we need to calculate. So let us take the data. What is the data that I have? Look at the board, all of you. 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and so on. So here mid values, as I told you, average of lower and upper limits, that is 10 by 2 is equal to 5. 10 plus 20, 30 by 2 is equal to 15. Here if you see, the difference between these two values is 10. So by adding 10, you will get the next mid values. 15 plus 10, 25, 25 plus 10, 35, and so on, right? So this is how we can prepare the mid values. Now for drawing this frequency polygon, we prepared the table with mid values. Now those mid values are taken on x-axis here in this graph. On x-axis mid values are taken, on y-axis frequencies are taken, and for the first mid value 10, the frequency 4 opposite to 4, 10 and 4, a point is marked, and after we mark all these points, we join them using a scale, then we get a frequency polygon. I hope you are all clear with this frequency polygon. Now let us see one more type of graphical representation, which is nothing but frequency curve. There is only one small difference between frequency polygon and frequency curve. The mid values we have to calculate, frequencies we have already. On x-axis we take mid values and y-axis we take frequencies, and as usual we mark the points, but instead of using scale to join these points, here we join these points with free hand, like this. With free hand, we won't use any scale. We draw the curve with free hand like this, we won't use scale. So it is called frequency curve. So we have seen the three types of graphs. Now let us see one more concept of statistics. Before we go into that concept, let me pose you one question. Suppose when teacher wants to know how many students scored more than 60 marks, or more than 80 marks, or less than 60 marks, or less than 80 marks, the teacher has to ask the students, raise your hand, how many of you scored more than 60, or how many of you scored less than 60, to analyze, to plan for the students, whether to give a extra class or give them extra work, that has to be decided. For that we have cumulative frequencies in statistics. So here we have two types of cumulative frequencies, that is less than cumulative frequency and greater than cumulative frequency. We will see one at a time. For less than cumulative frequency, I have the data like this: age and number of frequency we consider 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, 60 to 70. And the frequencies are 8, 15, 25, 27, 18, 7, right? To find less than cumulative frequency distribution, prepare LCF table. Here we consider upper boundaries of the class. LCF is progressive sum of the classes from the beginning to a particular class of upper boundary, right? So we consider upper boundaries of the classes here. What are the upper boundaries of the classes? 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 and 70. And then, as I told you in the definition, we have to take the first frequency 8 as it is, and to get the next LCF, less than cumulative frequency, add this 8 to the next frequency 15. So how much is this? 23. Then 23 plus 25, 48. 48 plus 27, it is 75. 75 plus 18, it is 93. 93 plus 7, it is 100. So this table is called less than cumulative frequency distribution. And for this less than cumulative frequency distribution also, we can draw the graph. But before that, we will see greater than cumulative frequency also, and then we see the graphs of it. So here, greater than cumulative frequency is, we get that cumulative frequency by adding frequencies from the last to the certain lower boundary of the certain class. Okay, cumulative frequency, progressive total or progressive sum of the frequencies, from the last class to a certain class and to up to its lower boundary. So here we need to consider lower boundary and GCF. So last class I said, so last class 7, right? So if you add 7, 25, then 7 plus 5, 12, 52, 52, 5 plus 2, 7, 7, 5 plus 7, 77 plus 15, 7 plus 5, 12, 92, 92 plus 8, 100. I'm sorry, actually this is GCF. We are adding from top to bottom. And for GCF, we have to take lower boundaries. Lower boundaries are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 and 60. So this is how we can prepare LCF and GCF tables. These are called less than cumulative frequency distribution or the greater than cumulative frequency distribution. Now let us see here, if I have to find how many people of more than or less than a particular age are joined in that hospital, we can easily tell from this data. Now this data can be represented in the form of graphs. Less than cumulative, you can look at this graph here. LCF, by taking upper boundaries on x-axis and less than cumulative frequency on y-axis, if you mark all the values, we get a curve. This curve is called ogive curve. It is derived from the word ogive. And similarly for the greater than cumulative frequency, I already explained you how to prepare the greater than cumulative frequency distribution on the board. Taking this lower boundaries on x-axis, GCF on y-axis, if you draw the graph, you will get a graph like this, marking all the points opposite to the particular values. The points if you mark on the graph, you will get a curve like this, which is called GCF curve. And you know children, we can draw these two graphs in the same graph paper. Like this is less than, concave to convex, and one more here, greater than. So if you draw both like this, they intersect at some point. Both the graphs individually we have drawn LCF and HCF separately. If you draw both of them in the same graph paper, you will get like this, isn't it? So from the point of intersection, you can see this slide here. From the point of intersection, if you draw a perpendicular to the x-axis, wherever it meets the x-axis, that particular value is called median. Do you all remember median? We calculated in the second session. How do we find the median? By arranging the observations in the ascending or descending order, and the middlemost value is taken as median, isn't it? So that median for the grouped data can be calculated using this graphs. This ogive curves helps us in calculating median for the given grouped data. Right. And here so far we have seen how do we group the data, how do we construct the grouped frequency distribution, and representing that in the graphical form, that histogram, frequency polygon, frequency curve, and also we have seen LCF and GCF tables, less than cumulative frequency distribution, and the preparation of greater than cumulative frequency distribution, and also we have seen the graphs for LCF, GCF individually and also together like this. We have drawn the graphs of them, and for better understanding, I would like to show one graph here. Yes, I have this is the graph paper. So here, whatever values we have seen so far in the our PPT in the slides, So here on x-axis certain values are taken, on y-axis frequencies are taken. If you have to draw the graph for this, suppose upper boundary is 20 and LCF is 8. So opposite to 20 and 8, you need to put a point like this, and 30 and 23, right? So opposite to 30 and 23, somewhere here 21, 22, 23, here you will get 30 and 23, you have to mark a point, and other values like this, and join with free hand, you will get a curve like this. So this is LCF, less than cumulative frequency curve. Okay, and here this small square, we have many squares on the graph paper. This small square we consider as 1 centimeter, and on x-axis we have taken 1 centimeter is equal to 5 units if you observe, and on y-axis I have taken 1 unit is 1 centimeter is equal to only 1 unit. So this is how taking the scale, appropriate scale, using the according to the requirement, the values, looking at the values, we decide the scale and take the values on x-axis and y-axis and draw the graph. And finally here we write, on x-axis we have taken less than cumulative frequencies, on y-axis we have taken what? Okay, on x-axis we have taken upper boundaries, on y-axis we have taken LCF, less than cumulative frequency. So this is how we can mark the points and draw the graphs, which gives us better understanding of the data. As I told you, LCF and GCF curves helps us in knowing more than certain value or less than certain value. So here if you look at this, the patients more than less than 28 are admitted in the hospital, and less than 70 years, the age of 70 years, less than the age of 70 years, 100 people have admitted in the hospital. So for knowing less than, we use LCF, for knowing more than, we use GCF table. So this is how we can find LCF and GCF. As I told you in the beginning that this is last session of statistics, and in the previous classes we have seen data and its types with the day-to-day life examples, languages, we have taken some examples from languages and science and social studies, and we have seen recording and organization of data in the form of a story, history of the statistics in the form of a song, and also representation, pictographs, simple single bar graphs, double bar graphs, and pie charts, using the available data, and preparation of ungrouped frequency distribution table in the form of a SMS poll in the first class. And next we have seen mean, median, mode, their formulae. Mean is sum of observations by number of observations, mode is the most frequently occurring observation, median is the middlemost observation arranged in the ascending or descending order, and we have seen the properties of mean, median, mode. And also in today's session we completed the topic how to prepare the grouped frequency distribution and graphical representation and LCF GCF tables. So that's all in statistics. We have done these topics. I hope you all understood all these topics very well and you practice this very well. And finally we will see today's summer project. Yeah, note down this, children, in your notebook. Here you need to play blowing air on tamarind seeds. You know tamarind seeds? Yeah, you know tamarind seeds? You take at least 100 tamarind seeds and play 30 times. Here what do you need to do on this tamarind seeds? You have to blow air. Take deep breath and blow air on this, they will spread. You have to collect the seeds without touching the other one. And you note down the number of seeds that you collected for the first time. And next time again do the same activity and count. So like this you play for 30 times and record the data as I have shown here. So 65 is 30, right? And then for the data collected, construct grouped frequency distribution for the data that you collected by playing that, and take your convenient class intervals and classes of inclusive type. So what is that you have to do? Construct grouped frequency distribution for the data you collected, taking your convenient class size and the inclusive classes, right? And next you draw for the data, after you construct the grouped frequency distribution, draw histogram or and also frequency curve for the grouped data. And finally, I request you to write the scientific reason behind playing that game. What is the scientific reason behind playing that game? So I hope you all understood the summer project and you will do it with enthusiasm, because it is a simple game. And in all the classes, I was giving the examples from the movies, songs, and playing. So this is to just develop interest towards the subject. To develop interest in the subject, we need to take the examples which we like more. That's why I have chosen some things from the movies. I hope you all understood. Thank you very much. I thank Telangana government, TSAT and TSWR-EIS, and also our secretary. At last but not least, I thank all the viewers for watching my class, for listening to me. Thank you very much.